Oh, we are live. I had a meeting that's why I'm starting a few minutes later, but we should be good to go now. I'm gonna chill a little bit while I double check all the things that I have here. And we'll see how all this goes. I probably oh no, I'm not watching stuff that I should need to have my headphones. If something comes up, I will use my headphones. That's how it usually goes. I'll see how people are going. Oh yeah, I forgot to play the 30-second countdown clip at the start. Oh well, I was ready. I started, and we'll see how this goes. Hey, welcome to the stream. Hopefully, I get someone else to bounce ideas off and that sort of stuff. Because I just sent the link to join. We'll see how they turn up. Ah, Shoe Handboy! Nice. I didn't know. Obviously, different names and stuff. It's good to see you here as well. This is definitely different when I go on YouTube. I tend to do more. Well, my monthly streams are going to be discussion streams more here compared to playing games and having fun like I do on Twitch and that sort of stuff. So it's different types of content. But there's also on the YouTube, I mean, I'm playing KOTOR and that sort of stuff. Hello, Iron Inquisitor. Hey, if you want to join, I can DM you the link to join. I'm happy to talk to you about things. Actually, that's why I want to have my headphones in. Duh. Because I've sort of probably should have sent maybe a couple more messages out beforehand. But yeah, we're going to talk about horror and Star Wars because it's American Spooky Month. Here in Australia, we don't do Halloween, so that's not a thing that I tend to really buy into as much. But because it's the whole theming and I've got an international audience, here we go. Spooky Month. So yeah, it's cool. And I'm just waiting to make sure some people can join. I might start at the 5-minute mark properly with the topic. Because there's some quite interesting stuff to be had that is actually EU specific. Because still, as far as I know, we don't have any horror that is in the new canon. And I think one of the things I do want to delve into a little bit is how it's an example of Star Wars being multi-genre. Like within its space opera, sci-fi type stuff is very much going into different genres within the books. And even dabbling in different bits and pieces here and there. I think there's definitely some books that have delved more into the fantasy side, which is very much more force based, I would say. More perspective of Jedi, focusing on the force, compared to what I would say is harder sci-fi, which is like the X-Wing series and that sort of stuff, which is cool. And that sort of stuff. Okay, so some people might join later. I'm just hearing back from people. So fun times. Well, I might as well make a start. And I'll talk to you guys in the chat about this. I probably should have prepped some thoughts and ideas first. So what I might do while I'm thinking of it is just pull up a Word document beside me and just note down a few thoughts in my head so that I don't get too off track and that sort of stuff. Yeah, obviously, actually, I might talk about what I'm thinking for my YouTube channel soon. At the end of this year, I'm going to stop doing college because I'm going to be graduating. and so I'll have more time to do some things. I'm probably gonna focus on doing my short stories compendium, and then I'll actually probably properly get back to going, "Oh, I allocate some time before bed for reading," and that sort of stuff, which I find to be a good way to do it. Because at the moment, I've been busy with college, and then by the time I get to the end of the night, I'm just like, "I'm gonna sleep," or I sort of get distracted by screen stuff, which isn't as good. So I need to do that self-discipline thing of, I'm gonna read a bit before, and then I also wanna read the physical stuff. I've been reading more manga on my tablet than actual Star Wars stuff, which will go towards this channel. But I mean, the channel, I'm feeling like if I really wanted to go at my channel and try and be bigger and do all of that full time, which I don't think I will currently, but you never know because this is just hobby and for fun. I would start branching off and doing pre-records of different games and editing those. Because as you can see from KOTOR, I've actually put the time and effort into editing them. But that's why I didn't have KOTOR last week. Because I'm just like, I didn't get the time to edit it. But hey, the wait should be worth it, right? And the on that KOTOR, I reinstalled it and it fixed a glitch. Go figure. But yeah, I was thinking if I was going to have a go at it, hopefully I can do some more of what. Well, okay, I've got an audio narration that I've half done for Seeing Red, the newest short story from Swotor.com still. And there was a little brief, I think, afterwards, but it's still the newest short story from them. And I need to re-record some parts of it. My voice for some of the characters is all over especially one of the characters is all over the place, so I need to re-record that. But that requires a lot of time and effort. But I think if it does well, then I'll continue doing that for some other EU short stories, which would be really cool. But while I'm thinking of it, it's really interesting to see some of the views. Oh, hey there, small time. How are you doing? It's good to see you. It's interesting to see the view differences between different things. I'm just swapping things over. I'm going to share screen and go to my YouTube channel just for a minute. Half an hour. I mean, that only came out 16 hours ago, but if we look back a little bit, what I find super interesting when I actually show it, find super interesting. 143 views on the 5 things that stop me buying KOTOR. 44 views on what the KOTOR remake could do well. Oh look, the clickbait going, ooh, what about negative stuff? Actually gets more views. But it's funny because all these people that watched the KOTOR remake, out of them, and 133 is on thoughts on the KOTOR remake. Interesting. The shorter 5 things that would stop me buying it went better. I mean, obviously, more people probably want to click on a 12-minute video than a 36-minute video. But anyway, out of the 133, 63 went on to watch Canonical KOTOR playthrough. And then for whatever reason, it goes down to 28 on the part 2, which is interesting to me. It's a little observation on my part at the moment. I'm like, I'm still making the videos for fun. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to continue doing KOTOR 3. Because, of course, I've been exporting my SWTOR Twitch streams and, not many people watch them comparatively. So I'm just like, I'm having fun with it anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting observation that the people that want to hear thoughts on KOTOR remake, especially possibly the more negative ones, don't want to watch me play KOTOR. But also, I can understand because the people that really want to hear the Courts on KOTOR remake probably have played KOTOR before. But what I found actually, while I'm thinking of KOTOR, as one of the things is that I know I'm not getting around to the horror topic immediately, but yeah, that's because I was still waiting for other people. Now I'm on a tangent. Uh, I never found a KOTOR playthrough that has a webcam and commentary over it. Like when I looked, I did a little bit of digging. Like a lot of them either have no commentary or they don't have a webcam and they just have commentary. From what I noticed, which is interesting because I like the way of doing it where you have a webcam and commentary and that sort of stuff. And that's why I edit mine in the way I do, because I'm like, well, if you want to go watch it no commentary, then we can go watch another channel. Also, I think I I've recorded my gameplay separately, so if you did want to see, oh look, there's 0 viewers, really? Oh well, I'm talking. If you did want to see a commentary, free game, English. If you did want to see the game without commentary, I did record the gameplay separately, so I could edit that together if people so wish. Oh yeah. Now let's get into the horrors and aspect of Star Wars. Galaxy here. Hey Nexus Prime. Nice to see you. I don't know. My view counter seems to be off on Streamlabs then. Ha! Fun times. But yeah. Galaxy of Fear surprised me so much. I actually enjoyed it a lot because they did that. Children die. They have cannibals on Dagobah while Yoda's living there. Spoilers. And that sort of stuff. I mean, if you haven't read them by now, spoilers away. Haha. But yeah, horror is an aspect of Star Wars. I'm not going to write in my Word document. Like I said earlier, I'm just going to go with it. The big standout for me when I think about that is the Galaxy of Fear books. Because they are, well, I mean, Galaxy of Fear was Star Wars' response to Goosebumps' popularity, which is cool. So they did their own version of Goosebumps. And that's been so long since I read Goosebumps that I don't remember exactly how far it went into some of the horrible things like those children's deaths and stuff like that. And what I do find interesting is it also contains the end story for one of the characters from the Cantina in A New Hope, as in Day of the Dead, I think. Oh, now I have to look up the titles. I really should have prepped some things. But yeah, the one with City of the Dead. That was what was it? Army of Terror. I think it was City of the Dead. Now I'm just going all over the place. Yeah, City of the Dead. That's right. That's the one with the worms that turn. The worms that turn people into zombies. That Dr. Evers are mixed in with stuff and all of that. It's really cool because they have a way of actually having a scientific basis for the zombies that also gives the ending of one Dr. Evers. He has a death sentence in 12 systems. Which I was always like, what happened to him? And it's really cool how John Whitman wrote. And I love how John Whitman writes in the Galaxy of Fear series. Like, people talk about, oh, horror, oh, Star Wars, oh, Death Troopers. Well, when mentioned. But not as many people mention Galaxy of Fear. Which I feel like maybe because their junior novelizations get a little bit underrated. But that's also something I've heard from someone else that is getting into some of the junior novels a bit more since I've just been like, get them, read them a little bit, is that a lot of the junior novels actually are really good. Like Jedi Apprentice is a great series, and I still have yet to read Young and Junior Jedi Knights, but I'm going chronologically. But how Ju Watson weaves Jedi Knight into Jedi Quest and then into each of her junior novel series is great, and how she sort of created the Watson verse. If we're going to give it names like the Reeves verse and Timothy Zahn's interconnected books and that sort of stuff, which is cool. Yeah, going back to that Galaxy of Fear, I'm like, the ideas in this, they just went full horror on them. Damn, we're doing it. And I wasn't expecting it to go that far because I'm like, oh, junior novels, Galaxy of Fear. Okay, we're following these kids. We'll just see how it goes then. And all of that good stuff. Oh, yeah. On mentioning Death Troopers, we got to mention it's prequel Red Harvest, right? And I think we talked about Red Harvest in an Expanded Universe book club. Was that on my channel? Hang on. That was not on my channel, but it's on All Keeper Evans' channel. But we give thoughts on Red Harvest there. And it's interesting to, I mean, I feel like it's easy to bounce ideas off of people when talking about particular topics like this, but I haven't read them too recently, to be honest. What I did find about Death Troopers was I really enjoyed it, but the cameo of characters from movies wasn't needed. Like, why? I feel like they just put them in there because, ooh, gotta have some of the big three involved in there. As well as, oh, if you don't have characters from the movies in the books, maybe people won't buy it as much. Which I'm like, you're silly. But I really like the idea and the way it was executed as zombies in space, of course. Rat ghouls. Thinking of KOTOR, rat ghouls could also be considered a horror aspect of Star Wars for sure. And actually is weaved into the KOTOR game and Vector comics, which the Vector comics go through all throughout. And SWTOR still has, like, I think this is crazy. I feel like it has only been for the little event things that they can do in SWTOR that they've had rat ghouls appear on other planets. Because I'm like, if they were really on those planets, everyone would be dead because they didn't really prepare for it. Or it would be very similar to Taris. They have an area where it's all worn down and in ruin, basically, where the rat ghouls are living. And then you border them off and keep them isolated. Some planets may be able to deal with them more effectively, but that's what possibly they could do in that case. And stuff like that. It's cool. Zombie styles. I don't feel like zombies, thinking of zombies, conflict too much with it. Because, like, especially as Red Harvest shows, and I think that's a good aspect of Red Harvest as well, is that it shows that the Sith have always been searching for immortality in whatever form it would take. Now, of course, it's imperfect when it's zombies, but it is immortality. But I feel like you don't want to go too rampant with, oh, zombies everywhere, because, I mean, Star Wars being that multi-genre franchise, you don't want to do too much. Oh, that's a little insect. Go away. um, you don't want to go too far into horror because I think if it gets too saturated as well, it would lose what's special. It's still flying around. Blasted thing. Go away. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. It gets too saturated, and I think you'll come out of ideas to make it feel like it fits in the universe. But in the little bits that we have, I feel like they could do. Went right in front of my eyes. Then that it's like, um, I should stop getting distracted by that bloody thing. Right. You would loot. You can have more horror stories, I think, and it would make a lot of sense to be able to have a few more different horror aspects. And even thinking of stuff like experimenting with technology. Mass Effect has husks, which are basically zombies, but they're based in technology and experimentation. Because Mass Effect is a bit harder sci-fi than Star Wars. And that could definitely be one of the things that I do think of as that could be an idea you could introduce into one of the stories of Star Wars as a horror story, is that you have an experiment that was going on by someone, whoever it was, that still bugging me. Ignore it. I need to focus. um, that you could tell the story of. There's different ideas you could use for sure. I think in TCW you also have the Blue Shadow virus. I think that's what it was called. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of a bit more extreme, like here's a horror-based story first, which would be like Death Troopers, Red Harvest, and Galaxy of Fear. And then I guess when you come into aspects of Star Wars, as you say, the Sarlacc can digest people over 1,000 years. Well, and it could be horrible if you go into the actual thing of it, because it keeps people alive by providing nutrients and hydration, like water and all that, to keep them alive, and also extends their lives while slowly digesting them piece by piece. Like, I assume that the brain is the last thing to go, and it slowly eats away at their body, but somehow sustains their brain. Like maybe their spinal cord gets integrated with the Sarlacc, and somehow that way. And there's stuff, which is cool. Anything involving the Night Sisters? I think Tion Solisar was a Night Sister, wasn't she? Mm. There was a Night Sister in Legion of Jedi Order, anyway. And I forget, no. Oh no, Tenel Ka, duh. And stuff. No. Brain doesn't want to remember the names. Tenel Ka's Hapes Consortium, though. There was a Night Sister in Legion of Jedi Order. It's been ages since I read any of that. And I feel like the caveat being that she's a Night Sister, but she's also a Jedi, so you could write a story that doesn't have a horror element because she's a Jedi, compared to if she was just a Night Sister. But yeah, I feel like there's little things of horror that, like, they don't dominate the story, but they're there, and I think that's cool world building too. Like the Sarlacc, as you say, something from the movies that is really cool and can be an aspect that when you think about it, you go, it's horrible. But they don't delve into it in the movie itself. Or too much of the books or anything. I mean, of course, you get Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc in the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy and stuff like that in the first book. But you don't, and in this short story, you don't have an absolute focus on it being horror. But I think that adds depth to the world as well, because even in the real world, there are things that you can interpret as, oh, that's horrible. That could actually be a real horror setting if we delve into it. Like deep in the ocean in real life. I feel like that makes it believable. Hey, there you go. Phantom Menace. Deep in the ocean, there's always a bigger fish. There's a horror aspect too. Like, you don't, yeah. Going back to this, it doesn't need to be so blatantly gory and horror and that stuff. I think what could be a cool idea for a horror story as well, like, well, horror vibes. Well, I was just thinking of SWTOR and the Dreadmasters and how they inflict fear on people, and you could have Sith that bait Jedi or people into a certain area. That is the influence of fear, and they create this whole scenario to be able to break people down mentally, to be able to then torture them and kill them and get information, whatever they wanted to do from it. And it's just the Sith could do that in general, because in itself, the Sith would be a horror aspect because of all the powers and things that they can do. Oh yeah, Old Wounds has a horror vibe. Just in general, like the appearance of Darth Maul in Old Wounds, with the longer horns and everything, is a horror vibe. Let's see if I can pull up a picture for you guys. Like, it's obviously when he had his spider legs or whatever. Definitely a horror vibe. But then we have, if I share it, boom, boom, boom. We have the picture like here, we can see that he's got the elongated horns. And there definitely seems to be more of a horror aspect for him hunting down Kenobi. Also, at the expense of all the people he slaughtered along the way, that felt like a slasher movie, to be honest. Or a slasher type story. There's one I didn't think about before. Visionaries, I think also I would say that some of the Sith alchemy is definitely part of a horror aspect, because you can make so many twisted things with it. Hey, Will! There you are! And his name was John Cena! Yeah. There you go, because there's no sound alerts on here. See, Leland Shee basically said that Old Wounds was canon to the EU apart from Watto's death, because Watto appears later in the I think Star Wars Galaxies. He appeared. I've never played that, but he appeared in there. You mean for Maul's look in TCW? Yeah. It is funny that he doesn't seem to give credit to it, even though, like George, would have seen how Maul looked in Visionaries, especially since it was based off of concept art for Revenge of the Sith. Concept art for Revenge of the Sith had Darth Maul coming back. Interesting little tidbits there that Visionaries gives. And yeah, he really should give credit to that, because that was being done before he did. Unless he also went, oh, I based this off of the concept art from Revenge of the Sith. Like, it's sort of fully realized in Visionaries, in Old Wounds. What is it to say? I've, well, I mean, the Yuzamvonga horror, the embrace of pain, all of the they were so evil or so bad that the Force disconnected them. That stuff. I still, it sounds bad on paper. I'm not doing it justice explaining it. I still need to read all of the NGO books and whatever NJO books. Yeah, yeah, that was a little bit. Come on, man. I think it was cool in the all of the parts where it's like I don't mind that he was there at some points following the trail of Kenobi, but that it was so close to Kenobi, I feel like was a bit much. And I feel like he should have made. I mean, Old Wounds didn't have too many pages to be able to explain more and be able to hide himself better because he was a Sith assassin. He was trained in hiding his presence and all of that. So I think that would make sense for being able to actually explore and try and find Kenobi in the Force. But yeah, just casually being late was a bit much in some places. I only got to Tatooine. I mean, it's really cool. But yeah, Maul's End is Old Wounds as far as we can tell in the EU. And even if it's somewhere said it's not canon, it's all we have. So I don't see why it shouldn't be as far as his ending goes. Because it's like, well, we're not going to get anything now, are we? I mean, so it doesn't even. I guess Son of Datham is technically. Mm. Yeah, right, hang on. Old Wounds resurrected him. Son of Datham. I feel like no, the start of Old Wounds is an interpretation the same as TCW. It was an interpretation of how it was brought back to life, and they're just going. I would just go. Here's different artistic interpretation. Then after Son of Dathomir would be when most of Old Wounds happens. But yeah, TCW causing problems again. Look, just the end of Old Wounds is fine. Where he goes and hunts down Kenobi. Stupid TCW. Just causes brain to go to mush when I try and think of how to put things together because I'm like, oh, that works. Wait, hang on. yeah, yeah. So you've got Uniform. The Darth Bane trilogy has horror aspects as well, especially with Darth Xana causing people to go crazy with illusions of monsters and horror things. So this is things already established that could be built upon if they wanted to write a horror-centric story still. But the elements are there, and there's an aspect of Star Wars that's always there. I feel like because the Star Wars EU and the franchise as a whole is multi-genred, you get fantasy, you get sci-fi, you get horror, and you get all these different things. When they sort of hint at each other, as with you saying earlier, the Sarlacc is a concept that is horrible. But they don't delve into it, so it doesn't seem so horrible in the actual story. Yeah, it should have those sorts of things, I reckon. To have the whole thing of, well, it's like a real lived in world. And I think, yeah, even Dr. Evers past, how he was wanted in the death system for 12. Yeah. wanted he had the death sentence on 12 systems, if I can say it the right way around. It is very much a thing. Oh yeah, I haven't read that yet. So that's cool. There's so many things I still haven't read. That's why I'm like, I want to get back to actually reading the book for like an hour before bed because I don't now. I've been doing other things and stuff like that. But yeah, there's so much. Oh, there's also the novel Wild Space. It was the Clone Wars Wild Space, which supposedly left a permanent nerf on Kenobi, which is weird. But the brain reset. Have a drink and reset. The whole thing of how going into a place that's thick with the dark side left a permanent mark on him, supposedly, but then we never hear about it afterwards, so it's just one of the weird things. And I was just thinking as well, with Exar Kun and early Keldroma, I mean, Sith ghosts are basically just evil ghosts, right? Horror aspects right there. Oh yeah, for sure. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing were both known for horror. That's a good point to make. I keep thinking, like, my brain always goes, oh, in-universe story, rather than, oh, actors. If you want to go into actors and horror, I would almost say that Mark Hamill playing the Joker is horror-esque, especially in parts like The Killing Joke and that sort of stuff. I mean, the comic version is the better version, but yeah, that sort of stuff as well. I don't think the others have been in a lot that I can think of. But yeah. A train of thought. Because I couldn't like Keldroma. A lot of the Tales of the Jedi Sith amulet stuff that takes over your mind and influences you towards the dark side as you use it for power and that sort of stuff is really cool as well. Like the way that Sith holocrons can influence things still. And I knew that little yawn was coming. The whole thing of back in, well, the Rakatans. If we go back to Dawn of the Jedi comics that came out more recently, and then we can go into, well, the Rakatans very much were a horror aspect as well. So as well as adding in the Dreadmasters, I get so ticked off that the ending for that is locked behind Operation. Because I'm like, the Dreadmaster story is cool. It's a planetary story arc that they then give the ending of later on. Except I've never seen the ending. I mean, I guess I could look it up, but it's like, no, I never played the ending. That's not what I want. The horrors of war, I guess, with X-Wing and showing the human sides of battles and that sort of stuff. It's called Star Wars. So you can include the horrors of wars. It's not a grim dark universe like I've heard. I've got a friend online that is a Star Wars fan and also likes Warhammer 40k, which is a lot darker, and I would say that horror is much more of a central element to something that is grimdark and horrible. But in Star Wars, it's there, but it's not one of the dominant elements. So it's cool. Yeah. A lot of the things there. Just starting to cast my mind back. If we go chronological, so far from what I've read, I'm still behind in the comics, but that's all right. So we've got Dawn of the Jedi. Into the Void, even though it's not the best novel, introduces the creating a clone of yourself with alchemy. That could end badly if they actually made a sequel to that book. I actually, from memory, even though I read it ages ago, that was like the ending reveal type thing that they could have carried on for the next novel, but unfortunately cancelled. Now you get the Tales of the Jedi. And that gap in between where there would have been the Jedi and Dark Jedi Civil War could have been cool to have some stuff. But Tales of the Jedi, especially with the Sith artifacts giving people powers, like the illusions, creating illusions of a lot more battleships, like what's her face does. The names aren't sticking in my brain. I've got other names that are high on my priority list. But the brother and the sister, how they're both influenced by the dark side is really cool. How it goes into connects into earlier with the Onderon, how there was whole cult worshipping of Reed and Nad and all of that. And it's really cool. There's then the influence of early Keldrum and that. Just dark thoughts are a horror element, I would almost argue. Because if you went into Ule Keldroma's mind when he's turning to the dark side, he really didn't want to. But he was trying to do what he did for the best. And he mucked up. And so a lot of Exar Kun shattering that holocron, and then the pieces going inside each of the Jedi that he pulled along and taking them over basically with Sith spirits. That's literally just a horror aspect thing right there. Although it feels like, and when I say it's less of a central element of Star Wars, it feels like it's not as dark. Like, it's horrible, yes, but it's not quite as dark because you're also focusing on the heroes, and it's part of the things of like the way it's depicted isn't as, oh, it's horrible, but more of they're doing this to get the next step of power and they could be redeemed, sort of thing. Like comparing it to, say, a story where they, I don't want to spoil anything I've been reading, so I'm going to be vague, but a story where they could change people indefinitely to horrible monsters or something, and you had to kill them to stop them. That'll also be something that you go, well, that's horrible. Well, Star Wars has always had that note of hope through it. But without the Sith, you have nothing to conflict, and so they bring back that thing. Tales of the Jedi. Then we have the Old Republic. This is where my comic knowledge stops. Yeah, KOTOR, sorry, first. Rat ghouls I mentioned before. And then we have in the comics themselves with same character rat ghouls. And then also that whole Jedi Covenant thing, which I would say could be a horror aspect. But yeah, KOTOR 2. KOTOR 2 has Darth Sion and that sort of stuff. In the SWTOR, you definitely have all the dark side stuff going on. The Rakatans that are trying to get out of their prisons and that sort of stuff, which is cool. And then Dread Masters, as I mentioned before. I think Red Harvest was around the time as well, so zombies made from a pursuit of immortality using specific type of flour, mixing a concoction. The Origami Orchid, if I remember correctly. I don't know why I forget names of characters, but I remember something like the Origami Orchid in Red Harvest. But there we go. So we have that, and then, well, vicious mind dominating people, imprisoning someone for 300 years. Mandalore. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Anzati. I'd forgotten about them a little bit. But yeah, they also feature in Galaxy of Fear 2. This is a bit later on. But it's really cool. I really wanted more stories of the Anzati. Especially, like, we got a little story in Tales from Jabba's Palace, I think. I'm just like, I want to find out more about them. It's one of those things where I feel like they introduced a species or something, but then they didn't really expand upon them in the lot where I would have loved them to. It's like the Bounty Hunter Wars introduced the Assemblers. That's just the top example in my mind. We see nothing of the Assemblers outside of that trilogy, and it would be really cool to see something of them. And if we go from SWTOR to, well, then that's Darth Bane, which I mean Brotherhood of Darkness. Everyone getting sucked into a thought bomb and trapped there. That's a very horror element. And you start learning about more of Sith illusions and Sith sorcery, which I would say is a horror aspect. The whole Sith is a horror aspect. But it's in the way that you think of, is this sort of traditional horror, or what sort of horror is it? Because I wouldn't specifically call Palpatine creating the Empire and enforcing it in the original trilogy, especially in the original trilogy, something that's horror. But there would be aspects to it, and it's less about the horror and more about the hope that we get from Luke saving the galaxy type thing. And yes, my hair is not symmetrical. If you notice, makes it look weird. When I cut my own hair, I didn't make it symmetrical. So that's a bit of a thing of like, it's less about the actual power structures, I call it, and more about the individuals. Like, there's parts in Visionaries, there's the comic about Sidious in the background, sort of looking like he's manipulating events and using Sith alchemy with that, where he seems to swallow that centipede-like creature, and it's like, but that would be horror, because Sith alchemy really involves horror type aspects and that sort of stuff. And it's cool. Now, post Return of the Jedi, I'm thinking of now. I mean, we get Luke Skywalker in the Shadows of Mindor with black hole and everything like that. That's certainly a horror type aspect. Because he wasn't particularly a Sith, but was working out different ways to do things with that crystal, whatever it was. And also, I would say Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was super interesting, involved some parts where I feel like the whole part where that later became Dagobah with the whole foggy area where it crash lands on the planet and all that is very much there. Greetings, Ad- I don't even know why that's your name on here, but yeah, fun times. Hey, how are you doing? And so we all have an aspect of some stuff that's a foggy planet that you're not sure what's happening, which I think John Whitman did really well in Galaxy of Fear. Oh, Rebellion era, Galaxy of Fear, highlight for horror in that era. He did so many things that I would just say Galaxy of Fear. Read it, please. And he also connected in Thrawn in one of the books and stuff like that. So if you're a fan of Thrawn, then you should read them because, like, especially one of the covers hasn't gone like, which is really funny. I took a screenshot of it. I took a picture, a screenshot of it at one point, and it's a good meme. I think I used that last month, a couple months ago, when I did my Importance of Law and Continuity live stream as a monthly stream, and I had that picture in the slides. But yeah, I think Alex Ajdwa. Because that's your name on there. Yeah, I know it's you. I'm just making a joke of it too. Jayland or Galaxy of Fear. There's not as much hard sci-fi stuff. I mean, Death Troopers as well in the Rebellion era, of course. We have zombies there, which could possibly go somewhere else. They did leave it open, but you never know what could happen. Joe Schreiber left it open anyway. And stuff like that. Post-Return of the Jedi, I mean, Yu Zhanfeng, the big one. Shows Mindor. I think you get a lot of the horrors of war in the X-Wing series. But then I feel like the way that's written, it's just brilliant. Is you get the horrors of war, but then you also get the good moments, so that's actually counterbalance each other. Where you have the moments of victory, you have the moments where they're actually bonding together as friends and people and all that, compared to all just the depression of the horrors of war and that stuff. So I would say the X-Wing series for that. Legacy of the Force is kind of psychological, I would say, what Jason was doing with Jason was doing with Ben with the flow walking and trying to psychologically manipulate him. Oh, yes. I didn't mention the games yet. I was thinking of books first. Died Noga's a horror element too. And you go to Dark Forces or Shadows of the Empire and all that, and they're massive. That's crazy. That boss, yeah. That boss. Shadows of the Empire was the first game I played on the YouTube. So quality of commentary isn't the best. I've definitely gotten better at thinking of things to say and the way I present myself. And I think I was also only using my webcam microphone, and I didn't even know that I could download a program to adjust my webcam to make myself look better. But yeah, it's interesting to go back to that and then go, oh, actually, I've improved so much. But yeah, That's crazy. But also in Dark Forces, how you're in the sewer, you can't see anything, and these things are just attacking you like, what? Madness. Thinking about the thought bomb, how it comes full circle with Jedi Knight is really cool. Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. I don't know what they were thinking when they were naming that series. I mean, I guess Dark Forces, they didn't know that it would become a series, so then in Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, they went, oh, we're going to call it the Jedi Knight series because we know we're going to make more games of it. But it's still like, you're not going to retroactively name Dark Forces like Jedi Knight Dark Forces or something like that. I guess you're not a Jedi in it, so that would be kind of false advertising. Anyway, it's weird. Yeah, there's the games. Some things are very horror games. Republic Commando, very much horror aspects with Geonosians, battle droids, all that. Now I'm gonna look at my list of games when it comes up. And we've got, I mean, KOTOR already mentioned with the rat ghouls and stuff. And I'm just looking, come on. If I can think of any others I've played. Like, some things I think it adds to the horror. I mean, if I played Republic Commando, it was way too long ago to remember much about it. So it's going to be interesting when I replay that or play it. Because I don't remember if I actually played it or if I just watched someone play it, to be honest. Kid me was a bit dumb. Star Wars TIE Fighters horror because you can't get the bloody controls to work properly. Like, I want to just use the joystick on it. But, like, you might have heard of J-Lan. I couldn't get it to work. I tried streaming on Twitch with it a bit. I just, like, why? I can't get it to work. I just want to use the joystick, but I have to change the controls to get all the controls I need on it. And then it doesn't save properly because the old game be weird. Force Unleashed has a Sarlacc. Also, coming back to Felucia when Shark T has died, after Shark T died, and seeing how it's devolved from the influence of the dark side from Maris Brood and stuff. Really cool. And, of course, the whole psychological manipulation in the Force Unleashed 2. I feel like there's definitely some horror aspects there when it goes into the dark side cave on Dagobah and stuff. Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith. When you fight fake Mara, I died a lot. You can watch my playthrough of that too. I think that's mainly the Star Wars ones that I know. I mentioned SWOTOR, so I'm not going to mention that again too much. Yeah, I think there's definitely potential. Yeah, I mentioned rat ghouls definitely earlier in the stream. But yeah, I did mention those, and I mentioned KOTOR. I mean, even brainwashing, that the Jedi can brainwash people and that sort of stuff. Mind dominate as a mind tricks and mind domination that the Sith use, and that is definitely horror related too, I would reckon. And that sort of stuff. I know. Oh yeah, rat ghouls I mentioned with the Vector comics too, which go throughout. Like, so if you don't know, the Vector comics are great because they made these sets of comics that work within their own series, Like there's Vector comics inside the KOTOR comics and that sort of stuff. But then those Vector comics all connect together throughout different eras. And it was like the most ambitious crossover ever. And the way that works is like they have the one central character that then is in stasis for years and years, which is cool. And that's the stuff. I think I've run out of things I'm thinking of. As far as specifically mentioning that horror is there. But overall, I think I'm going to end this soon anyway. Because I was hoping one or two people might be able to join me, but they can't. So I'll just summarize my thoughts. Horror as an aspect of Star Wars makes the world feel real. There's definitely parts of Star Wars that, if you think about it more, could be horrible, but they're not the focus of the story, and so it just feels like part of the world building to make the world feel more realistic. And I think when I'm thinking of it in that way, you want stuff in a world that you create that has that sort of, it could be horror or it could not be. Well, here I just thought of another one. Bounty hunters could be very horrible. It could be very horror-like if you have a story of someone being hunted undauntingly through a series of different situations. But yeah, and so we have that. We have the part of the world building, and now my train of thought went. So I feel like there's a lot there that will make it feel realistic. They could do more horror stories if they wanted to, but it seems like they don't want to at the moment, so they don't, which is interesting to me. Well, at the moment, it seems like they didn't want to, so they didn't really do it at all, and that sort of stuff. And yeah, there's a lot more there when I actually think about it than I realized, because I was like, oh yeah, we have Death Troopers, Red Harvest, and Galaxy of Fear. Those are the main ones I think about. But no, there's actually a lot of more bits and pieces that, while a story may not be horror centric, which you could have more of, you can have horror aspects to it, and it can be really cool. Especially when it comes to story choices and how it affects people. Oh yeah, I just remembered about finding out in KOTOR about what happened to the pilgrims. RIP. Yeah. Galaxy of Fear, if you have not read it, read it. Just because it's a junior novel doesn't mean it's bad. The junior novels are really good. Yeah. Hello, Adrian Shepard. I did mention that a bit earlier here. That's, I guess, where he said I still need to play Republic Commando. That's cool. Yeah, we're a bit. Might be back later. Yeah, I'm gonna finish the stream very soon, so I'll just catch you later elsewhere. Which I have Discord. Did I do my description properly? It's in the description, yeah. Which is cool. And that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think I've summarized my thoughts. It's really cool. I feel like Star Wars allows room for a lot of different genres, which is awesome to be able to see that you can have horror when you want to have horror, and then other things is probably the main focus of Star Wars most of the time. And then also thinking of horror not just from the gore, psychological trauma type stuff, what are specifically horror games and things that stories that people experience, but also thinking of it in the way of like horrors of war, that sort of stuff, which really adds to feeling realistic and feeling like it's a well-written story that thought of each aspect. Yeah, I think that'll end it there. which is cool. No, I don't have too much more. I'll give it a couple of minutes or a minute or so if you guys want to mention anything else specific, because I've mentioned some things earlier in the stream and stuff. Yeah. I don't think there's too much else for me to say in that regard. I still went for an hour. I'm like, oh yeah, I can at least do this topic for 20 minutes or half an hour. Talk for a whole hour about it. Even when I haven't structured my thoughts properly. And it would be longer if I had someone else on the stream to bounce off of. Which I do find a bit easier with these discussions, is to have someone else to bounce off of. But yeah. Oh, thanks. It's always good to hear that you enjoyed it. And I feel like it's a good way of raising awareness, because we're thinking of horror, it's not just those books. Then you can actually be reading a story and go, oh, hang on, that's actually in there. Or just thinking back on one you read. Whoa, that's actually in there, which is cool. So yeah. Thank you guys for joining and watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next month on a live stream. But if you want more of me in between, there's my videos, which go watch my KOTOR playthrough. I've been putting a fair bit of time and effort into it, so I'd appreciate it. Anyway. Uri.